Thanks for joining us today on the Elite Athletes video podcast. Today, I have with me Dylan Cardenas. He is a 2020 middle linebacker and recently signed with Western Colorado. Dylan and I have been working together for about 16, 18 months, and he's going to tell us today about his experience overall with the recruiting process. And I think he's going to have a really special and interesting interview because it's not a traditional high school to four-year college type of journey. This is a journey that includes high school, junior college, pandemic, and ultimately onto a four-year college. So Dylan, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad to have you. Your original graduation date was 2020 or 2019? 2020?
2020. Well, 2021, because I graduated 2022. So I was a year late. So I graduated 2019 from high school. Then 2020 I played my freshman year. And then that next semester is when everything got shut off. So my whole second year and the first half of my first year were all missing.
Right. So like you were kind of like my daughter, where you graduated in 2019, but like that first year, everything went
different. Yeah.
But yet here you are now, 2 years later, finally achieving your goal. There is a process. There is, like, if you continue to work through the process and keep your goals, keep that focus, and you get a supportive family like your dad, and you get some people around you, that's kind of the message that I want to promote. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you just have a unique, journey in my mind. I've worked with a couple different, junior college players, and some have just like, okay, I'm done. I'm not getting the offers I want. And other people have gone on to do other things, and, like you, go into a four-year school and stuff. So that's just kind of my focus, is just to kind of talk to you a little bit about, like, okay, this is how, as graduating in COVID area, being cut down, and then kind of working through that process. That's kind of what I want to focus on. So
Sounds good.
Don't have a lot of questions, I should have sent them over to you, but I did not. But it's basically like exactly what we talked about. So and then, we'll splice it up, put on my YouTube channel, and we'll put some things out there on Instagram and stuff like that. So I may even use some of the stuff we just were talking about. So that's kind of the agenda.
Sounds good.
That'd be good. Otherwise, is your dad doing good? Because I haven't talked to him.
Yeah, he's doing really good. I told him we were going to be on the call today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll have to admit, like, I'm a little disappointed you're not going to play at ACU, because I can't go see you play.
I know. I was honestly really excited. Like, it was almost like a match made in heaven. And then, sometimes you get lucky with two matches made in heaven, and here you are. So it was a great journey, though. I mean, they were really like cool. Like, I called all of the coaches, try to be like as respectful as possible throughout the process. So they're all really like supportive and stuff, which was cool.
Yeah. What's unique about that is most people don't realize NAIA and NCAA, two different letters of intent. So they're actually two different organizations, which you probably know now.
Mm-hmm.
But a kid can actually do exactly what you did and sign with one, and then go and sign with another, or with an NCAA school, and you're not going to be penalized for that. So sometimes athletes kind of get roped into that, where they think, or coach will tell them, like, hey, you signed, you can't do anything, and they get lied to. So but yeah, I'm interested in how that happened. Did they just, like, you said they'd been reaching out to you, and they just decided to?
Yeah, I mean, they reached out to me, and I kind of responded. I was just like, with full transparency, like, here are my transcripts, here's everything, and like, I'm like on the verge of already going to another school. And then like I was like, if you need any other information, like, here's my phone number. And then like they gave me a call. We kind of like talked, they kind of got to know each other, and then probably a couple days, almost maybe like exactly a week later, I guess they called my coach and stuff, they sent me an offer, and then it's one of those things where it's like, you know, you're just very excited to kind of go play
Right.
Division 2 and like go enjoy that. So I kind of just jumped on it right away. There was no reason to kind of like have any second thoughts. Kind of just went for it.
Um, so like, let's talk about like the process. Like, you graduated 2019. What options did you have for recruiting heading out of high school? Had you been recruited by some division or four-year colleges, or, you know, kind of that was on the doorstep of COVID and all that stuff? Just kind of tell me like what were your options heading out of high school?
I mean, I feel like my high school process was very like simple. It was, I played 4 years at high school. I mean, my high school wasn't one of those schools that were like, oh, like everyone goes to the next level, you know, like we go to camps, we do this, we do that. It was more like enjoy your 4 years of high school football. And usually that's it. Everyone moves on, goes and does just, you know, life.
Right.
But I didn't really have any offers, no nothing out of high school. It was at the end of my senior season is when I had probably like almost every JUCO in the area kind of contact me. So that's when I was like, oh, maybe like I can do this in the next level. Like I always thought about it in like the back of my mind, but I never saw anybody from the years prior do it, you know?
Oh, okay.
So like I'm still one of two kids playing from that my high school team left.
Oh, really?
Like,
Only two.
yeah, so it wasn't one of those big like everyone goes to like college football. But then
Right.
I decided, you know, like if the shoe fits, then like I'll go play
Right.
football. Like, I always wanted to. So, you know, Harbor College kind of made that a reality for me by letting me play football there.
Gotcha. But in high school, you played quarterback and linebacker, right?
I played quarterback, linebacker, wide receiver, punter, you know, the normal
You
high school.
played everything. Okay, that's
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. But what are you, like 6'3", 240-ish?
Yeah.
That's a big
So,
quarterback. So go to JC,
mhm.
and we have the pandemic, right?
Yes.
So you basically got your first season of JC ball in, and then what happened from there?
I mean, I got my feet wet my first year. I was 18 years old, so it was kind of like fresh. You learn that at junior college, you know, the age span is a lot bigger than
Yeah.
people explain to you. But like I never had any feeling of like going to the next level yet because you know, in high school I didn't really get recruited. So like finally getting that feeling from my freshman year, like, oh, like a lot of these people really do move on, like they do go play college football. Like it is a possibility. It was almost devastating like that you don't really get to play that next year. You kind of are home, like not losing hope, but like trying to just find anything that like inside you to keep you going because you didn't know how long the pandemic was gonna last. Like you're just sitting there like, all right, like I could play football next year. I could play football in 4 years. Like, is that still a possibility for me or do I just kind of move on? But for me, it was like, I just had high hopes. I was like, you know, not everyone gets to play football. Not everyone gets to play a sport or fortunate enough to play a sport. So like, who would I be to give up on that, you know?
Right.
So I try to just keep pushing through the pandemic with just like hopes that like, you know, soon enough it will come back.
Right. And we're talking Southern Cal, or we're talking California as well.
Yeah, so it's a lot different in California. I mean, we would probably be the last to open up out of
Right.
anybody. So, I mean, I even heard stories about people playing half seasons, like, you know, in that second COVID year. And we were told like way before, like we weren't going to do that. So you even think about losing a step. You're like, now like these kids are getting that extra experience without even using a year of their college eligibility.
Yep.
And you just need to, I just need to find something at home or nearby, just a park to like make it feel like I didn't lose a step, that I was still competing with people who were able to still play football.
Right. So when you weren't playing ball at the JC level because of the pandemic, what were you doing? You were working out. Were you taking classes too, or was that shut down, or were you taking remote classes?
I mean, there was remote classes. I think nobody really gives you the tutorial on how to like shift from on like normal in class but in-person classes to like a full online schedule. Like I was never a person who took an online class in my life before COVID. So like it's super different going online, trying to figure out how to do your assignments. So I struggled through the pandemic trying to figure that out. Towards the end, I started to pick up on it, was able to take classes consistently more than where I can only take one or two classes because I didn't really understand like how to do it all. But football wise and like working out wise, I was fortunate enough that I live with my best friend in California, and we're the same age. And when you have a lot of time on your hands, you need a workout partner. Like I always had one, so I was able to kind of stay in shape, and we kind of pushed each other, even though we had different like life goals. Like I was playing football, he wasn't, but we like connected and were able to work out, throw the ball. He go throw me the ball. We go do ladders together, all this stuff, try to keep me in shape, and competition kind of
Right.
competition with through the pandemic.
So tell me about once they got you finally got the green light, you knew you were going back to playing ball. What was your feelings with like?
I think it changed my whole perspective on football. Like I think I played my best season I've ever played in football because of the pandemic. Because my thing is, nobody ever expected us to shut down. Like nobody expected us to miss sports or ever in our lives. It's like it being taken away from you, and like you like really nowhere in the world were you able to really go do it. It gives you that sense of like it can be taken away from you. Like it will leave. So it made me want to play harder, want to finish that play instead of taking off a play like, oh, I'm tired, like I'm this and that. Like it's like I never know if it's going to be taken away from me again. So like you push through. It made me better in off-season workouts and every type of workout.
Yep. So about what point of your JC career, when did that recruiting for you start to warm up? Was you getting some feels for your first year of JC ball, or was it the second year? Like kind of was that even something that your coaches promoted and encouraged? Was, hey, who do we need to get on to the next level? So tell me a little bit about that experience of recruiting.
I think after my freshman year, you usually have your freshman year in spring, all those coaches will come, like they'll watch you spring ball play, and like you kind of can talk to them, that kind of stuff when they stop by the school. But I played my first season and I had a couple conversations with coaches, but also because of COVID, like all that shuts off. It's like everything's gone. No communication's really there with anybody anymore. So when you come back 2 years later, a lot of them don't know if you've put on 40 pounds, if you dropped weight, if you're still playing, if you've been working out. So it's almost like a fresh start. And it was nerve-wracking at first because, it's a fresh start, but at the same time, it's also that like excitement of like, I can go pave the way for whatever I want. So I think after my first game where like I was finally able to touch the field again, and I had a pretty exceptional game to some standards. I was able to get kind of some talks right away from that. But I think it early on it started very strong, and then like it almost disappears in the middle a little bit and then comes back. So it was more, I didn't understand the process though. Like I didn't understand the process of being recruited and to send transcripts, do all that kind of stuff. And towards the end, you were able to kind of help me explain like how to like contact coaches and how to reach out to them and send them your transcripts, your film, have everything ready. That way you are prepared to be recruited.
Yeah. I think you touched on something. One of my questions was, was it as easy to transfer to a 4-year college as you were led to believe coming out of high school? And you kind of mentioned like you came from a high school that really didn't promote guys to go to the next level. There's few guys, you said, two in your class, right? And then, but I think there's kind of this myth or misnomer that parents get and athletes get. They're like, oh well, if I don't get what I want, I'll go JC, and it's just going to magically happen.
Yeah, I think the problem with that too is a lot of people in high school are only explained that like Division I football is the only next level football. Like a lot of people look at it as like, if I'm not going to a top 25 college school that you watch on TV, then am I really playing football? Which is, I never understood that myself, but like that's how a lot of parents think, a lot of people think. But like there's great college football anywhere you go, like from D1, D2, D3, right. NAI, like anywhere you go, you're gonna play high level football. I've seen almost every level of football now from being recruited, and it's all great football. Like there's no shortage of amazing talent anywhere.
Right. But the process is harder than what people make it.
It's so much harder than anybody thinks it is.
Right. Because I want to, like, we'll go back to when you started with working with me, but to just kind of add to what you're talking about. I mean, there was a time where, what, 6 months ago, all your coaching staff was let go.
Yeah. So about 6 months ago, you start getting into the very like season just ended after winter break, like it's full go. Coaches are coming, everyone's talking, and then we just nobody told us really. We were just
No.
kind of sitting there, and then I got a text from one of my teammates before we went to like a banquet,
Yeah.
and it was like the football program shut down. Like there's no more Harbor City football program right now, all this stuff. And then you start kind of scrambling. You're like, what does that mean? Like our coach is going to come by as anything. So you almost went radio silent from a certain side of it where there's not going to be coaches coming by anymore if there's no football program.
Right.
So now you think about how the process was already hard. Now it's extremely hard. Now you got to rely on almost whatever you can do by yourself with like Twitter, emails, like texting coaches, calling coaches. Like it's crazy. It's a lot harder than people think. It's not an easy process at any point.
So going through that particular point, how helpful was it to have a person like me to work with, or kind of bounce those ideas? Because I remember that call. Your dad was like, "Okay, we got a problem."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Dylan failed a class, or like he's running around, messing off, doing something stupid. But I mean, talk to me about that.
I mean, it's nobody. I mean, I feel like coaches maybe other places, or maybe even a high school, they teach you like the recruiting process maybe. But I think after your freshman year of college is usually when you kind of learn like that coaches come by and stuff. I didn't get that. So having someone like you, like being able to like being very responsive, like we always had questions. There was always like something new that was going on with the recruiting process because every coach is different, everybody is different. So not having my coaches to kind of contact right away, like having someone like you to be responsive, to be like, okay, like this is normal, like just keep going with the process, like you'll be okay. Like it was very like stress relieving, because sometimes when you're by yourself, like you make the wrong decision, like
Right.
oh, I won't keep contacting this coach because like he's not responding to me. But it's like, no, like they're just busy people. Like they're busy people. Just keep pursuing what you need, and like if you really want it, like go get it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it definitely helped me, because having no coaching staff like on campus at all, like no one to help, like it was almost a miracle that like you were able to kind of help us.
So how did do you remember how we connected? Like I remember seeing your profile when it came out, but like, do you remember like not necessarily, were you researching places to work with, or?
It was a on Twitter, I followed like a couple like the PrepStar things because I've like heard about PrepStar.
Oh, okay.
And then they contacted me saying like, oh, like, we can help, like set up a profile, that kind of stuff. So I was like, after everything that's just happened, like it'd be cool, like even like just to put my profile onto somewhere like PrepStar. Okay. I've heard about it before. Right. And then like obviously we got in contact, and then that's like how I kind of came about with PrepStar.
Yeah. So you started thinking like, I'm not getting exactly the kind of help I need with the coaching staff, or I want to take a little more control of that process. That was kind of,
it was a lot about the exposure too. Like a lot of your coaches are like, like they come in and that's how you get exposure. But for me, it was like they're not going to come in no more because there's no one there to come into. So I needed to find exposure, and like obviously I like obviously did my research on it, and then where I was like, all right, like this can help me get great exposure to like put my face somewhere else or my film somewhere else to kind of get help.
So here's a little bit of a confessional is, and I have to say this because oftentimes when I have an initial reaction of like, I don't know about this, on the end, it usually becomes one of my better student athletes that I work with. And I remember looking at your profile and I'm like, oh my gosh, a JC kid. Like I said, I've had a number of JC athletes through the process. And usually they have this grandiose idea, like, they automatically think they're going to go to this big giant Power 5, and somebody sold them a bill of goods, like just go to JC, ball out, and you're going to go to, Ohio State's going to pick you up, and they get these, And so it's almost like a strike against it. And so I remember looking at your profile and I'm like, I don't really know if I want to deal with a junior college kid, you know, and you're big, you're really good size linebacker. And I'm like, well, he's got some size. And I I started researching you, and I knew you're from California, being West Coast myself, you know, and I'm like, this kid's gotten hammered. And I remember saying to myself, I don't know, maybe I won't reach out. Because I always have that option, you know what I mean? Like, do I think ultimately my strategy is to work with guys I think I can get recruited, or I feel confident about getting recruited, you know what I'm saying? And you just typically have with the junior college athlete. So point is, I was almost ready to just like file 13, yeah, like, nah, I'll just put this kid off on the side, you know, maybe we'll get to him later, not high priority. But I remember, okay, I'll reach out to his dad. And the biggest part of like what I do is you got to have supportive parents, right? You got to have especially in junior college, because you're one place, dad's another, I'm another, and your dad was super supportive. So the funny thing is, I almost didn't even decide to work with you.
Yeah.
And we're going, we've been working about 18 months.
Yeah, just about.
I mean, you've been, yeah. Because you were still playing. So yeah, probably 16, 18 months. And here we are now where, you know, I don't know, how many offers did you end up with?
Probably around like 12 to 15.
12 to 15 offers. You signed once, basically, right? Signed with an NAIA school, great option. And then turned around and had another better option come up with the NCAA school. But it's funny because like almost always, I have another athlete that I was like, I don't really know if I want to work with this kid. And then he ends up being like probably, you know, again, one of my top 5 that I just like a lot. I mean, you and I we dang near met every month, didn't we?
Just about every other week almost.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you just call up and say, hey, coach, I got questions. And your dad would be at work or on his lunch break, and we'd have some Q&A. What you know, what was the most helpful, like, of all the things, say, we did together or that you went through with your process? What piece of advice, what element of the process that we worked through, what do you think like gave you some and what you feel like maybe an advantage or gave you some confidence?
I think understanding that you could like email coaches, do recruiting forums, and like even like Twitter, like texting. Like I didn't understand that like that was such a big part of getting recruited until we kind of had conversations, and you were like, look, here are like even some pamphlets that you could even go off of, like this is how you could set it up, and like having that support to understand like this is like kind of like the standard or like even a grade standard, and figuring it out and kind of setting them off. Because when I was in contact with Western Colorado, they said that 3 months ago, like they went back and they saw that I did fill out the recruiting form. And I told him, I was like, oh, I like emailed you so many times. Like, I know your name, I know everything. Then he went back, he even saw I emailed him. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it gives them that like sense of like understanding that I was trying and I was going, even though like it came later, like they understood like from the beginning, like I was putting the effort in to go. So it just helps. Like the most helpful thing was most definitely the understanding of how to myself like use my own resources to get recruited. And then definitely the second most important was how responsive like you were. Like there's some questions that I needed like urgently to be answered, and you were always like able to answer my questions to like kind of help me in a situation. So that was also very helpful.
Cool. So where did you end up? Where are you signed, sealed, and delivered to go play ball next year?
Western Colorado University.
Western Colorado, and you're going as what position?
Linebacker.
The linebacker. Sweet. Are you pumped? Excited?
I am. Yeah. I've always, Colorado was like one of my dream destinations. It was one of those places that like I've always heard was so like beautiful, amazing to go to, like great travel destination, and like being able to go to college, like you want to go somewhere like you've always wanted to go see. So like Colorado is always that place. So I was just very blessed to be able to go to like definitely one of my top, if not my top school that I was choosing to go to, like that top D2 beautiful area, great on-campus school. So
Yeah. So what's your major going to be? What are you going to study?
psychology.
Psychology. So we finished that, got your AA coming out of junior college.
I got 3 A's.
You got 3?
Yeah, I got all 3. I was like, why do one when you could get 3 if I was going to stay an extra semester? So
right, you might as well take advantage of, because you had to
exactly.
finish that semester, right? You didn't have
Yeah.
a choice. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I think overall, like I said, like I think your experiences was really unique. And it's to me, one of the reasons why I really wanted to put the interview together was just because like you really, like, to me, you're really a fighter. Like you you didn't give up. You had a lot of obstacles. You had, like you said, from anything from like I'm not going to say like you didn't have the inspiration coming out of high school, coming from the leadership on the football team and stuff. You didn't have that example of multiple guys in your program going to 4-year colleges. You just decided, hey, I'm going to set a goal for myself, and you were relentless in following that. And even though you hit a ton of obstacles along the way, and the pandemic being the big one, you still maintain that course. And on top of that, you did great things like 3 associate degrees, and I just see so many kids bail. I see so many guys like, I really believe, like, if it's important, you'll figure it out. I always say, if it's important to you, you'll find a way. If it's not important, you'll find an excuse. And I think for you, like, it was really important for you to play at the next level. And you did the things on the field, off the field, in the classroom, and you have a really great journey. So I'm really appreciative to have a chance to work with you. Would you recommend recruiting help to people? Like if an athlete, another kid came to you and said, hey man, I don't know what to do, would you say, hey, I recommend you try to get some help? Or what would your advice to them be?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend getting help. I think the more advice you can get during this process, the better. I don't think you can ever short yourself on advice, especially during the recruiting process, because sometimes you think you want something, but you learn like the ins and outs to what recruiting really is, and you realize you don't really want it. So I think if anybody came to me and asked, like, would you want to get help, or like, should I get help? I would just say absolutely. Like, there's no way that it cannot help you. It's only going to be a positive influence on what you're trying to get, or where you're trying to go, whatever school you're trying to go to.
Awesome. And what about, I always ask my interviews this, if there's one thing we didn't talk about that you wish we would have talked about, or one question I would have asked you that we wished I would have asked you, what would that be?
I don't know if there's any questions I wish you would have asked me. I would maybe, I mean, you're very helpful. I don't know. I would say maybe like the difference between NAIA and NCAA, but we kind of touched up on that like the whole signing thing, like you're able to actually, if you wanted to leave one, there's no consequence to go to the other because they're 2 different.
Yeah.
But we touched up on everything. I mean, I would say you were extremely helpful. Any question I had, you had the answer for, so it was great.
I don't know about all that. I work on that, but it was good. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. From our conversations, you eating food in the car, going between workouts or whatever, and dad being on lunch break, and Friday afternoons or whatever. I'm just really glad. I'm really proud of you. I'm really excited. I was totally shocked when I saw the change, but I figured something better came along. And that's good. I knew I was tracking you. Once you'd signed, it was kind of like, all right, cool. I'll get to see him play here in Phoenix. And then I'm like, oh man, Western Colorado. But it's all good. But yeah, I appreciate you being on for the interview.
Of course, yeah.
It's awesome. Like I said, anytime you got a question, anytime you just want to chat, man, I'm here for you. So
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for everything you helped me with.
You're welcome.